is in the commercial real estate business as well. They're going to talk with you about this platform called 10X and how to leverage brokers to help you sell your stuff. Here we go, Mike.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, everybody that's interested in learning about 10X and commercial real estate. I'm a guest with Kenny Olson here. I came in under Kenny about 1.5 years ago. As Tom said, I've spent the vast majority of my career in commercial, so I love to hear residential stories and hope to learn and network with you guys going forward. We gave this presentation to a commercial meetup last 2 weeks ago, it was, right? And I did a webinar as well, which is posted inside the network if anyone wants to go and watch it. So Kenny thought it would be a great idea to kind of introduce some of the commercial world out there. And how many people have played or done any commercial real estate deals out there? How many want to, or how many think they can get to that next level? Because I can tell you, thousands, hundreds of thousands of investors have started where you are today and have grown into the commercial space, right? And the market is shifting in the commercial space. I suspect there'll be a lot of new buying opportunities, some distress, but we'll get into that as we go forward. So I'll just turn it over to Kenny for now, and we'll talk.
Thank you, Michael. Tom and Marissa, you two are amazing with how you pour into people. Thank you for all you do. So real estate is what I've done for 34 years. My sister, who's in the back, and I got my license in '89, she got her license in '86. The phone would ring, I would run to her desk and just listen to how she talked to buyers, how she talked to sellers. And I went on listing appointments with her, and we'd go on showings, we'd do MLS Caravan. People thought we were married. But she mentored me. And so Mike has been mentoring me with the commercial piece. And I think having mentors is really important. So I've done commercial over the years, but more by accident than intentionally, just because somebody will say, hey, do you do commercial? And most of the time it has a residential influence. It's not entirely commercial. We actually, Mike and I just closed on a property today. It was 100% commercial property. It was my relationship, but the reason I took it on was because of him. He gave me the confidence, yeah, we can handle that, no problem. And we sold it real quick, and the pricing, my value is going to be a lot less than what he said. He said, hey, this is a trophy property. Someone may come along and pay a premium for this. And ultimately, exactly what he thought could happen, happened. And it was because I called in somebody who... Yeah, so the reason I wanted to bring this to the residential side of the equation is, who in the room has relationships with people that own commercial real estate? So pretty much all of us. And there's a barrier to entry there because you might think, hey, I can't compromise my friend's, the sale of his property, I can't handle it intelligently, I can't speak that language. And this platform allows you to expose that property on a level with the behemoths in the industry, the CoStar, which bought this platform in 2020. And they bought it as a result of the decline in the market. And this auction platform, when he says distress, I think you're looking for a deal. I went to an auction this morning, and I went there because I was looking for a deal. I'm looking for an edge. And this platform, it doesn't compromise the seller. And that's what really drew me to the model, because it maximizes the exposure. We'll talk about the commission structure towards the end, but everyone I think is in this room today to say, hey, how can I make more money? How can I increase my bottom line? And that with this platform, you can do that if you have the relationship, because the deal is handed to you on a silver platter in terms of this company pays for the phase 1 study. That's a $7,500 expense. And this company does all the photography. They do the videography. They do the floor plan. So it's all set up for you. You just have to bring the relationship to the equation and put it onto this platform.
The other thing I want to touch on is that 10X will go out and survey the marketplace to find comparable sales transactions, but your seller ultimately sets a minimum bid. He is not obligated to sell if it doesn't reach that bid, but the goal is to drive the price up once you get to the bid. And the part going back to, I really want to stress this due diligence that's all done up front. If you know that you're showing the property, and, you have some tours, and every buyer has access to all the due diligence information. Usually in a traditional commercial transaction, you go under contract and then they do their due diligence. And that's when you get retraded or the deals fall out of contract. So that piece in itself is so valuable to the overall speed and certainty of the transaction. And going to Kenny's point, if you all have relationships with buyers, sellers in the commercial real estate, this is another resource and tool that you can introduce, because the commercial real estate market right now, there's no price discovery because of the interest rate environment. And so people are just on the sidelines because they don't know what their deal's worth. So the market ultimately is going to tell you, and you're going to see it real time, if you're on the mark or not.
Some of these slides we added because we wanted them to be viewable by the folks when Marissa posts them. There's a lot of content here, so I'm going to slide through some of it to get to the meat and the potatoes. So go ahead, Phil, talk about the process with the buyer being qualified.
So this part is what really kind of gets you juices, because all the buyers come online and they have to show proof of funds. 10X has a history of successful bidders, and you can see what they bought across the asset class, so property type, regional, and so when you're looking at these buyers, and first of all, once they're assigned a CA, they become your lead. So you can take that with you for the rest of your career and turn it into other business, which is pretty exciting. But you get to see. And the other part is you just don't know where these buyers are coming from. Marissa talked about the Airbnb business. Well, guess what? A lot of college kids come to town, right? So families like to invest in commercial real estate throughout New England. You'd be surprised. So the buyers can come from anywhere. You go through the curated due diligence. You have the approval of the P&S. There's no negotiation on these contracts. They're in a due diligence, and that's it at the end of the day. Deposit goes hard, non-contingency sale, and then you go right to the closing once the bidder's picked. So that's certainty. And that's what you really want more than ever in this marketplace coming up.
So we've all had open listings. So you're having an exclusive right to sell listing, and 10X wants to make sure that that's in place. The leads go directly to you as the listing agent. The commission is paid by the buyer, and we'll talk about what that structure looks like. So ultimately, it's up to the deal that you cut with your clients on what your commission will be over and above what the commission is that they're paying. And it's towards the end, we'll show the slide that illustrates the different price ranges where the commission structure is adjusted. But that exclusive right to sell component is really important because it locks your side in. And that's why the expression, my whole career has been listers last. And I personally don't mind working with buyers because I think listings can be a grind in terms of setting them up. And what this platform has done is it's doing all of that work for you. So now you don't have to do it. You don't have that expense. It's important to explain. If the property does not sell, this platform spends probably about $4,000 to $6,000 to set the file up. That $7,500 phase one study, because they're having those types of studies, they're ordering bulk so they can get it at a discount. If the deal closes, that comes off of the closing disclosure. So that becomes an expense of the seller. If the deal doesn't close, there's no expense.
Yeah, the 10X spends a lot of money up front. The only carve out is on the closing, they get reimbursed for the phase one. Is that correct, right? I don't remember that, yeah. So we talked about the no cost up front, the speed, the reach, which 14 million I think is low. You control the whole process. That's the beauty of it. You know, we all live on our phones or we work remotely. Everything about this transaction, outside of showing the property on some tours, is controlled on your computer. And you have an active live feed to see who's bidding, who's clicking on the due diligence. And when you see an investor who keeps going into that file, you know they're warm, right? So you get a real good sense of, you know, he's going to probably bid and bid up at the end when the window starts to close. So you get into the certainty piece. They have 58% to 96%. You know, listen, it's not 100% foolproof, and it really comes down to the type of deal you're trying to sell. 10X does a real good job up front to verify they think their platform will work for you, and they're not afraid to say, no, this isn't the right deal for this platform. So it's not for every piece of, you know, every real estate out there, but I've used it about 6 times before this current cycle, and I'm such a believer in that this is kind of the trend and the way the marketplace for brokers. What do you want to do, right? You want to close more deals faster, sooner, right, with certainty. And so we're working on trying to get in front of some of the banks and some of the what we think are distressed. And again, there's really limited price discovery in the marketplace. So if you've got a motivated seller, they should seriously look at this type of platform.
So as Michael had said, they're not looking for warm bodies. They're not looking just to put any property into the platform. They are vetting the seller to determine the level of seriousness of the seller, whether or not the seller has enough equity to sell the property. Some sellers, a lot of people in this room don't realize that the market does go down. You guys haven't lived long enough to understand that happens. I believe this market has been growing from probably sometime in the 3rd quarter of 2009 to the 1st quarter of 2010. That is your bottom. And we've been growing ever since, and there's been some stops and starts, brief stops and starts. You know, a lot of us thought that when COVID hit and the market spikes 30 to 40%. And then, you know, people say, well, the interest rates have doubled, and there was a little bit of a stoppage, not stoppage, but slowdown. And now here we are, we pushed right through that because people have recognized that, you know what, if I'm going to buy, then I'll just refinance at some point. I'll just suck up and pay the 6.5% interest rate, right? And because at the end of the day, the one thing that is secure, in my opinion, is real estate. And no matter what, you can talk about Bitcoin and you can talk about stocks and blue chips. And in the end, you can sell it, you can refinance it, you can leverage it, you can rent it, you can Airbnb it. At the end of the day, it exists. And so there is a flight to security, and that's why I personally believe this market is still humming. I discovered Worcester. My son goes to school here. I hadn't been to Worcester more than probably once, or maybe not more than a handful of times over the past 20 years. I've now been here probably 15 times in the past 7 months. I am so impressed with this city. I know now why you're playing here. It makes Michael's been here for a long time. But this marketplace makes a lot of sense. And this is why the Woo Sox came here. It's why there's 5 solid universities that are here. There's an airport here. And when you start looking at the infrastructure, it starts to make sense. So you know, that's my real estate, you know, talk track, but I believe in it. I've always believed in it because at the end of the day, it's worth something. And even if the price goes down.
Yeah, this is really one of the best slides here because it's, you know, you obviously have to have a client that wants to work with you and use 10X. You negotiate your fee with your seller. 10X does not participate in that. The question becomes, do you co-broke? Very infrequently is there a co-broke on this platform because the buyer first day, but when you get into the second part of the second day, that's when you're strapped into your chair. You don't want to be anywhere else because your phone's ringing, the meter's going up, you see the bids go up in real time. And then when it starts to get to the real close, probably within an hour, it's like you're holding on, your adrenaline is pumping because you know you're getting to the finish line and the real investors are stepping up. There'll be people that say they won't bid, and then all of a sudden you've seen them throw in a bid with the window going down to a 3-minute timer. And then the increments go up, usually 50,000, 100,000. And then finally you'll get a last call, and then it's like done. And you'll be sitting there going, oh my God, that was unbelievable. That's a rush in commercial real estate. If you haven't felt it, I hope you do.
As a residential agent, now you can experience it.
And you go, ching, I'm getting paid. So then they go from that, it's kind of like you're done. They handle all the transaction part of the closing. I mean, you're not even involved in that. No title, no legal, nothing. So it makes your life easy. What is this? This is just a slide on kind of the asset types. Right now, listen, who can figure out what to do with office space, right? Because there's going to be a lot of distress there. If anyone can figure out the conversion to multifamily, you should be following this platform, and you're going to make a lot of money. But this is just a snapshot of the deals, the win and bid, cap rates.
So this is an example of a New Hampshire property. It was a multifamily, and it just illustrates the timeline that everything occurred. From the online auction to the bidding start to the finish.
Yeah, if you look at, so you have to register. So you would get a notice if you sign up for this. And I would encourage everyone to do it just so you can see what's happening in the marketplace. You register to a bid, and then that's when you're going to have to show proof of funds, though. And that's the part. It's like the hood has to go up on these investors. Their bank accounts, lines of credit have to be disclosed and fully vetted by 10X. Then at that point, they get access to the data room, right? And that's where you'll see all the documents, including the PSA. So when you see, a variety of different investors going in there, and trust me when I say this, you'll see the same investor go in there 10 times because they're doing their due diligence. They'll pull one file at a time. Yep, we'll do that. Then they'll say, all right, we want to go for the inspection. We want to bring our due diligence people out there. So then to the left, you see the auction time frame, the bidding, and then, the minimum bid.
So we just wanted to provide a couple examples of what happened. This was flex space in Medford. Ultimately, it sold, was it $4.5 million? It's not illustrated here.
4.6 up top.
There it is, right.
Yeah.
What did that last one sell for?
This one, it just closed, so I'm not sure what the...
I was looking for that myself. Yeah. I didn't see it.
They had, there was a... People were pounding down the door to buy that, though.
It didn't sell, it sold for a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are your typical commissions that they purchase?
We're going to show it.
Yeah, that's a slide.
So we just have two more. That's the Medford sale. This is actually live now. This is Quincy office space, and the bidding starts on Monday. So
this asset is owned by UBS, if anybody's familiar with that. And I'm listen, I'm not going to paint a dire picture of what's going to happen to commercial real estate. I was around for the great financial recession with all the subprime mess, and I can remember being in a room with a bunch of commercial real estate brokers saying, that's not going to happen to us. And commercial imploded. I'm not going to say commercial is going to implode, but if you see what's happening with the banking sector and some of these recent banks, First Republic's in trouble. There are a lot of banks that have a ton of real estate loans on their books. Their borrowers have really low debt. So debt is, interest rates are up in the 6s now, 7s. So values are down 20%, maybe 30%. Once the economy starts to slow down, there'll be bankruptcies, business going out of business, and you're going to have tenants in these buildings, and these lenders are going to the borrowers are going to turn in the keys, right? The institutional groups are already doing that, like BlackRock. They're not, that's CMBS debt, that's a different story, but this is a real deal that, it's on a higher scale in this conversation, but listen, someday you could own that.
So that starting bid is super low, 2.5 million. That's exceedingly low. And it looks like, well, could it trade at that? Highly, highly unlikely. Is there a reserve? Do we know what the reserve is on this?
I don't know.
I'm guessing it's between 7 and 8 million would be the reserve on something like this. So I was having a conversation similar to what Mike was talking about. Within the past couple days, a friend of mine works for a really big shop. He does commercial leasing And this shop is well-heeled. I happen to know the guys, and they just did a cash for keys. They literally, they couldn't tenant the building, and they're solvent. And they said, we can't tenant the building, we don't want the tax bill, we don't want to pay the insurance, we don't want the liability. We're gonna give you the keys back, and you figure out what you want to do with it. So it's happening. It's always happening in a hot market. I mean, there's, you know, we can all get into trouble. When Tom asked, raise your hand if you've been in trouble. If you didn't raise your hand, good for you. I raised my hand as high as anyone could raise it. So this platform, I believe, it puts the residential agent into the mix. Where you thought you couldn't participate, now you can participate. But now you got to go get educated and figure out, okay, how can I play in this game? And we can all do it.
We're here to help you.
Yeah, the last thing we wanted to show is this slide. This is the question that you were asking, Aaron, regarding the slide deck. So the 0 to $1 million, the buyer is paying 5%. It's your exclusive listing. Now you have to negotiate that with your seller. So hey, can you earn a point where you wouldn't have earned anything? Can you maybe earn a point and a half? The deal Michael and I just did today, believe it or not, there's 6%ers that are still out there. You know, I personally believe that I tell my seller clients, you're better off increasing the commission because you're going to get more quality agents that are paying attention, showing the property, and when the deal gets shaky, they keep it together because they're looking at the commission. And they're saying, well, I can earn 3%, everyone else is offering 2%. And so they're bringing their buyer. Don't kid yourself. Believe me, they're looking at it. Put it online, but this is really the meat and the potatoes, the transaction schedule on how you get paid and however you can fit yourself in. Now you know that you can go out and get commercial listings and not have to pay for a phase 1 study and not have to pay for photography and videography and a floor plan